Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Friday, November 1st, and if you participated in Halloween last night, you are looking at some treats in your treat bag here. We have got all three US indices in the green. Looks like we're going to have a positive start to the day and a positive recovery, probably off of some great numbers coming out of various companies, including Amazon and Chevron and Exxon this morning. So although Apple missed and there's concerns over Apple in China, we have seen some strong numbers across the board. We've also seen a record low jobless number, but probably due to the hurricane and a shortage of survey data coming in to the Bureau of Labor and or the Labor Bureau. And I believe that that will be revised next month when more of those surveys are received, when people have the ability to send them in. So let's take a look at what's going on in the markets today. One of the things that you'll notice is crude is back up into the 71 range. So there's some talk that Iran or certain militias in Iran, probably government sponsored, are going to have another attack on Israel. So that is creating some uncertainty and some volatility in the crude oil future space, and has sent that up $1.80 this morning. So after a $4.50 decrease last week or earlier this week, it's now almost back up to where it was when it took that hit. So again, thinking about some of the comments that came in on the channel recently, one individual unfortunately lost a fair bit of money on a couple of trades this week on Meta and Microsoft and maybe Valero in the past. My advice to you or guidance to you, because I'm in similar positions from time to time, hold those stocks. You do not have to sell and trade those and take those losses. Now, you certainly can. You can also incorporate stop losses into your positions where at a certain percentage, 3, 5, 10%, whatever you are comfortable with, but also where you see the trading envelope being. And when it gets under that lower bar of the trading envelope, then you can set a stop loss there. And you can increase the stop loss as the stock increases so that you maintain a bit of a gain, but you create the ability to sell out at a certain price. And those can work. They don't always work, but they certainly can work to help you mitigate your risk and mitigate your losses. But if you hold those stocks, just like crude has rebounded, I am confident that over a period of time, it can be a long period, but it's often a short period, those stocks will rebound back up to the levels that you bought them at, and you can simply sell them for a neutral. So no gain, no loss, or a slight gain or a slight loss, but you can certainly mitigate a lot of your risk. And that's the strategy that I typically follow. What we'll see here is the VIX has dropped a 1.2, 1.3% this morning, but it's still above 20. So we want to see that get down into the 15 range if we can over time. What we'll notice here is Costco's making a bit of a recovery. I still think Costco's a steal in the 870s. This would be a great purchase for a 2-month hold through to the end of the year, maybe even into January. When we start hearing more about the holiday season. Lulu is just kind of hovering. I'm staying away from Lulu at the moment. I do like Walmart. I think it's an attractive company. It's got a lot of potential. I think the earnings are going to be very good coming out of them this quarter. Now, they don't announce for a little bit, so we've got earnings coming out on the 19th of November. But going into earnings, I think that's a strong buy. I love ATD.to, that alimentation couche-tard at 72.61. That's an absolute steal at that price. And if you take a look at the financials of this one, you're going to get about a 1% dividend, but it's highly likely this is near its 52-week low. And when it finalizes that it's not going to be able to buy the 7-Eleven stores, which looks like it's kind of already locked in, this stock is likely going to jump. And the fundamentals and management team behind that are extremely strong. If we move down into oil is going to see a rebound today, primarily thanks to a few things. First of all, crude is up $1.90 now. It was $1.80 a minute ago. It's now up $1.90. So that's a good sign for the crude stocks. But we also had reports from Chevron and from Exxon this morning, and both of them beat on expectations. And so I think what we're at, and based on drilling in the Permian Basin. So I think what we're going to see here is definitely a boost to the oil stocks. So it might be interesting to get in early on those, ride the wave up, and then take your profit on those. We're also seeing a tremendous recovery in tech this morning. So with a few contradictory examples there. So Apple had a bit of a miss. There's concerns about its sales volume in China. It's very, very dependent on China. And to me, that's a huge red flag for Apple. So I am staying away from Apple at the moment and waiting for a bit of a pullback there into the low 200s. But so Apple is off $4. But then if we look at another company that announced yesterday, so Microsoft the day before, and they're recovering slightly, only $3. I think it's a great time to get into Microsoft. This is going to go back to a $330, $340, $340 stock in my mind within the next 3 months. So getting in when it's been sold off is a great way to ensure that you're buying at a discount. But if we look down through the list to Amazon, Amazon is up $13. So that's a nice 7% uplift. Looks like it could get above 200 today. They had some great cloud results, and that's helping them. Meta obviously had a bad day yesterday. Even though their earnings and profit were a beat, there is concerns over their capital expenditures, which I find a little ironic because Google and Microsoft and all of the other big names are also spending in the same kind of dollar amounts and percentages when you look at their overall financials. But they were off, they were hit hard, initially not as hard, but then when the whole market fell yesterday, the NASDAQ, they took off and joined that downspin. We see that they're recovering a bit today. I love Meta in the 567s. I mean, this is a stock that's easily going to be $600 by January. And I think getting in today would help you to solidify a very nice gain. We've got Alibaba, which has a lot of potential going into earnings in 13 days. So we're about 2 weeks out from Alibaba. I think in below $100 in that range, it's a pretty sweet buy. We also had a huge sell-off on NVIDIA yesterday, and I'm going to buy some NVIDIA, but more than that, some NVDL, and first in our list here, which is the Granite Shares 2-for-1 hedged NVIDIA. I think this has the ability to get back up and recover on that $7 loss. It may not do it in the day, but I think it'll do it in the coming couple of weeks. So I'm looking at picking up some NVDL, but NVIDIA looks like it's going to recover. Google got hit hard yesterday. Even after great earnings, OpenAI came out and said they're releasing a search function that will do things similar to Google search on the OpenAI platform. Now, it's only currently available to subscribers, paid subscribers of OpenAI, of which I am one of them. I'm a big believer in OpenAI. But in the coming weeks or months, whenever they decide to make it publicly available, it will become publicly available, and we'll have an opportunity to leverage that. The thing about this is, just because you announce a new feature doesn't mean people are going to start to use it. Almost everyone's default right now is to go to Google for a search. It's not to go to ChatGPT or OpenAI when you perform a search. So changing human behavior takes time, and most humans hate change. So with those two things in mind, I think Google, with that deep drop yesterday after phenomenal earnings, is in amazing shape. As well, OpenAI is not even a publicly traded company right now, and they're trying to pivot from a not-for-profit to a for-profit company, and that in itself is going to take some time. Now, I'm not discounting OpenAI. I think they're a phenomenal. What they've done is just simply incredible in the AI space, and I think they're going to be an incredible IPO that I would love to be a part of, but at this time, that's not available. And the company that is public, Google, is doing an incredible job. And we've seen that in the last set of earnings. I also love TSM. TSM a couple weeks ago came out with phenomenal earnings. And now they're back down to basically where they were pre-earnings. So that is a steal in the 190s. And now we get into our financial stocks. And yesterday, the one stock in the finance sector that didn't have a bad day, it was down 5 cents, but that's not a bad day, is SoFi. Looks like it's easily going to recover off of that to start the morning. And then we go down into the big boys, and the big boys are making a comeback today as well. So off yesterday by $2.50 was JP Morgan. Looks like it's going to recover half of that at the open. It'll probably recover the full thing as the market opens. Morgan Stanley pulled back into the mid 100 and 116s, the mid 100 teens. And I think it's a interesting play now. I think it's kind of at its max. I wouldn't be buying into Morgan Stanley right now, but if you hold it, you're doing pretty well. And I think Goldman will make a comeback today into the 520s. So that's where we are today. If we take a look at the earnings that have come out and what the earnings calendar looks like. So Enbridge announced before the market, Chevron, Exxon, which we talked about, Cardinal Health announced today. Monday, we've got Palantir. Palantir might be a very interesting one to get into today ahead of earnings, or even Monday ahead of earnings. But again, I'm being very cautious with the US election. We do have earnings coming out next week from ARM and Costco and Qualcomm. And I believe Costco and ARM's earnings will be very good, but there's a lot of concern around what's happening with the election. So wait for an election buying opportunity that creates some significant volatility in the market, get in at a discount, and then sell and take your profits. That's where we are today on November 1st. Good luck with your trades. And if you're liking these videos, please subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment.